Wilbert T. Sass, Omaha, Nebraska, at the Palace. So graciously provided by my son, Brian Timothy Sass, a wonderful guy, one of my 6 sons. So this video is a subdivision of a concept that I created to go along with my business plan for local independent business owners. I call my approved members of marketing, advertising, membership associates, MAMA. I call them select local businesses. And the reason I call them select is because my business plan offers business advertising by category and subcategorizing restaurants because there's so many categories of restaurants. And I sell exclusives in zip codes. And if there's 2 in the same zip code that apply, then they have to be in separate carrier routes. If there's 3 or more or 4 or whatever in a zip code, because there's hundreds in some zip codes, there's hundreds of businesses. So it's conceivable that you could have several categories apply in the same zip code, same subcategories in the same zip code. So I drill it down all the way to neighborhood cities, because what the concept is that consumers, and especially targeting low-income zip codes, because that's half of where all people live, according to the U.S. Census data. Half of the people have been forced into living in low-income zip codes. If you never drive through there, you notice there's not very many businesses there, no franchises hardly, generally speaking, and fewer businesses than in the higher income zip codes, which is about the other half of the zip codes in the country. And there's a reason for all this, and that's part of the reason for this video, to kind of go into that, because the average person isn't generally aware of this information, because it's their focus in life is different than mine. I'm a lifelong salesperson, marketer, business owner, importer, and generally interested more in business than just about anything else, because it's intriguing to me how life is sustained, and it's through business and through buying and purchasing. And we have the free enterprise system, which is capitalism, subscription to profit to earn a profit. And so my video here goes into the concept that I developed called capitalism zero profit. Now, that's contrary to the concept of capitalism, because capitalism is designed to create a profit through subscription of investment. And but the problem that I recognized after studying this since I stopped on the road active travel some 20 years ago, began looking at this overall picture because I had no intention of retiring. I can't find anywhere where there's any kind of idea of retirement when you get right down to the brass tacks of what life is all about, which I believe personally is a sophisticated spiritual life. And what I mean by sophisticated is not that one's better than the other. It's just that sophistication is the alteration of thinking through education. And that's what you get with daily Bible class, which almost no Christians involve themselves in, because they're snared up in what I call the religious Christian denominational faiths that are all human created. They have nothing to do with what God created in his plan. Now I digress, and I don't apologize. Maybe you picked up on a couple ideas there you might follow up on. Maybe not. It's up to you. But the thing is, capitalism was originated by the Lord Jesus Christ. Plant a seed, get 10 back. The problem is with business, as is with most things in life, when humans get involved, it gets complicated because everybody's got a different idea about and is motivated from different particular aspects of their perspective in what they want and what they desire in life. And so when you get businessmen involved and they're after a profit, avarice works into the picture because of the frailty of the human thinking erosion that takes place that has taken place throughout history since the first man disobeyed God and corrupted the human thinking spiritual connection to perfect thinking, which is divine thinking, sovereign thinking, eternal thinking, which we're all designed as people, as human creations of biological life, now that we've been separated from that perfect life due to disobedience of sovereign will and sovereign eternal life, who is, he runs the show. So when you disobey that, you corrupt everything that comes and transpires afterwards. Human beings generally aren't aware of any of this that I'm talking about. And as I say, I digress from the purpose of this video, but I do it purposefully because the primary goal in life is to try to spark people's thinking so that they stop their obsessive concerns with this life. Because if you want to bank everything on 60 or 70 or 80 years, good luck to you. I wish you luck, because there isn't any such thing as luck. Everything is decided by volition in life, and luck is a concept that comes from the darkest, deepest pits of evil. And that people, and I get so, I don't, I used to react to it, but I learned better. You just get stared looks and sometimes angry looks if you say, well, thanks, but I don't operate my life based on luck. If you want to, that's fine, but I don't operate that way. And I haven't for 50 years. Now, the first 29 years, I was, I guess, oblivious to what I had been taught when I was 8 years old in a Christian daycare center, Christian grade school. And thank God my grandmother got me in there. She was an avid Christian, read the Bible just every day. And so that's where I believed in Christ when I was just a young boy, 8 years old. But then a terrible thing happened to me when I was in that particular, I won't go into the details, but you can use your imagination, because it fouled up my thinking for the next 20 years until the things that I had been taught. It says in the scriptures that train up a child in the way that he shall think in the future, and he will always return to it no matter how he goes astray in the meantime. So did you follow that? I hope so, for your own benefit. But anyway, the concept of capitalism, let's get back to that, because that's what's important. And in this video, and so what I've recognized through my interest in business and so forth, and studying this, the concern that I have, that I saw all of the big businesses in the United States, there's only a few thousand of those. Okay, the really big, there's only a few thousand. They call it the Fortune 5, and then they left too many of them out, so then they started calling it the Fortune 1000. Well, there's lots of big businesses in the United States, and God love them, and go to it, do whatever you can do to get all you can get in life, big businesses. But when you start getting down to really where people live, you've got 23 million small businesses that are independently owned, that serve customers where they are in their operation. Those are the businesses that if you keep pounding on them and taking things away from them, what you have asked as a consumer, you have asked for control of your pocketbook, because that's why monopolies are outlawed. Because whenever business people get a monopoly, guess who suffers? The guy that has to, and the woman that has to buy from the monopoly. So it just doesn't work. And that's why in some of the nations where they try to control everything, that's why that won't work, and it never will work. It works, maybe it'll work for a while. Sometimes it's got to run 100 years before it peters out. But it can't go on, because that's just not common sense. Okay, competition is what makes people get up in the morning. I don't know why you get up, but I get up because I need to compete against everybody that's peddling these false, rotten, dirty, corrupt ideas in the world. I fought against that all my life as a salesman. You have people that are out there for one reason, and to earn money. And I've always realized that I didn't get any money unless I sold something. So if I was selling, and I learned very quickly that, if you try to get too excited and too hyperbolic when you're trying to sell something, you have a tendency to want to kind of fudge on the facts of what you're selling. And I realized that, whoa, wait a minute, this is going to work, because you can't lie enough to cover up another lie that you've already said, and it'll catch up with you. And the world's not big enough for a salesman that lies. Eventually, when they're found out, nobody buys from them. It's that simple, because, unless they're always moving to a new territory and keep picking up roots. That may be why people move around in life a lot. I don't know. But anyway, I didn't move around a lot. I've only lived in 3 cities or 4 cities my entire life, 79 years. So I think that's right. Maybe 5 cities. But anyway, I moved around a lot in those cities. One time it was early, not so early, but later. One time, one person that was very close to me counted up how many times I'd moved in 29 or 30 years, and it turns out I'd moved more than once a year. And there was a reason for that, but again, I digress, and I don't apologize. So back to capitalism, zero profit. Now, why did I come up with that concept? And you notice the way you got here was to click on a origin concept, click navigation video graphic, so that I could expand on this boomerang membership income. And what I'm talking about there is the marketing, advertising, membership, associates membership is $30 a year and $9 a week. And my membership agreement says that 100% of that money, by every one of the members that are approved, and remember, I sell exclusive business advertising by category, and I give exclusives only in zip codes or carrier routes or in neighborhood cities. See, what you have to realize is so many businesses. I learned this in my sales career when I was, when we're out recruiting, or out looking for job opportunities in sales and so forth. And when people come along and they've got an opportunity and they want, the first thing a salesman says is, well, can I get an exclusive? Well, the company is not going to give an exclusive, because you can't only call on so many businesses a day, and take you a lifetime if you were going to do as much business as a bunch of salesmen could do in a lot less period of time. So exclusives in business and sales, generally speaking, is not a good idea, because it's a tough road to hoe to grow. But and yet everybody wants to get an exclusive. Now, exclusives can be gotten. And but the problem is you have to have a mechanism, you have to have a strategy, you have to have a modality, you have to have a plan that's going to allow you to penetrate enough of the consumers in the defined exclusive area in order to give yourself the opportunity to have a market share that is either dominant or or on the way to being dominant in that particular area. And the nice thing about the way our country has grown up, and our zip code systems and carrier out systems and even neighborhoods, if you zero in on those three areas where people live, and if you had a significant amount of business, if you're in a category or a subcategory of business and you had a significant category in either any three of those, you probably got more business than you can handle. And so unless you want to expand from that and go into another zip code and another, and that's possible to do with my business program. But you have to realize as a business owner, you better be good at management if you're going to do that. Because the worst thing that can happen to you is to jump out and try to expand into more zip codes and have an exclusive in your category in those other zip codes or carrier routes or neighborhood cities that I call brand neighborhood cities. Uh, if you don't have a high level of management skills and leadership skills, you've bit off more than you can chew, because what happens is the business gets away from you. You've got an exclusive, you got people coming to you, but if you can't manage them, if you can't service them, then you're in trouble, and your expansion is going to crumble from the foundation, because that's serving customers and being able to manage increases of sales. And this is where the big companies get into all kinds of problems, because they can't hire people with enough skills and management leadership in order to get the thing going in the right way, unless of course they're getting all kinds of billions of dollars of subsidies from the government. And if you don't think that goes on, I got a bridge out in Arizona I want to sell you, so you come and see me, because I'll give you a terrific deal on it. So but you've got a situation. What's happened over the last 70 years or so, and the reason I say 70 is that's about how old I am. That's how long I've watched it develop. So I can speak from a pretty good position of authority, because I've watched this thing develop. And when I was a young person out traveling in sales all over Nebraska to start off with, I noticed that when I go into a town, there's only one place you could buy Maytag washers. Or it was only one place you could buy Philco. Now, you never heard of that name, but Philco used to be a pretty popular electronics operation. There's only one place you could buy a General Electric, because businessmen understood that the people that they had to help them to advance their sales in these communities, businessmen in those days understood that you had to have an absolute way to motivate the people that you were entrusting to sell your goods and your brand in that town. The way it is today, there's only one thing that's at the forefront of everybody's mind, is that's buy the product and then figure out a way to sell it as cheap as you can, and to try to get all the business on the basis of price. And the only way that's possible is if the government helps you out. And there's a reason why the government does that. They do help out certain companies, and there's a reason why they do. And I won't go into that, but you can just about imagine that it starts off with corroded and illegal activity, yet obfuscated from the average person, so that it can go on without being detected, or in a way that anybody can get enough power to stop it. So I digress again, and as I say, I don't apologize. Did you pick up on any of that? So anyway. But you see, what happened was, after long about the 70s, what you find is that the communication started changing. Then we had a judge that thought he knew how to control the world, and so he broke up AT&T. And now, suppose everything is always done on the basis of how it's going to help the consumers. It's going to make things better and cheaper and get more benefits and all that. But the real bottom line is some guy that doesn't have a real good grasp on what reality is all about when it comes to free enterprise and capitalism. And AT&T, yeah, it was a monopoly. And thank God, look, everybody had a telephone. What a concept. Everybody's got a telephone today. The only difference is mine used to cost like $12, $14 a month back then. And today, if you're lucky, you can get by with 130, 140 a month. Oh, sure, it's a lot more convenient and everything. But I think I venture to say that if you'd left AT&T alone, if the people that ran AT&T didn't get to be as big as they were and being them out because they were stupid. They weren't going to invite competition by lagging on technology, were they? I don't think so. But you had these people, you always got these people that can't leave well enough alone. They've got to try to make it better all the time, you see. And there's nothing wrong with that, generally speaking. But when you get way off into left field and you drive off the road and go out into the weeds and you get lost out in the weeds, it doesn't do anybody any good, does it? Did you get that? So, so what you've got is a situation today and developing, as I say, in about the 70s, was what they call specialty advertising. Oh, this was a roundabout way of telling the consumer that we're going to really throw it to you, but we're going to do it in such a way that you're going to think we're doing you a favor. And so what happened was, and see, what people don't really generally get a grasp on, in the sense of being not informed. Now, people aren't stupid. I mean, if they can get something from one place that's as good for them as buying at another place, and they can get it over here at 30 or 50% less, or up to that amount less, naturally, that's where they're going to go. So they're not stupid. Consumers aren't stupid, but they may be not informed about their decisions, about their not being stupid. So they go where the price is, and as long as it's comparable in quality and serviceability and service and customer service and so forth, yeah, price is important, but it's not the be all end all. Typically, generally, the lower price you pay for something, the lower quality service, whatever you get. And we've all woke up to that fact in the last couple of years. We realize now through our being helped along by some outside of the Washington belt of thinking by a businessman who knows about these things, who has explained to us that we've been ripped off by countries all over the world for the last 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, and there's not one administration in our government, executive level administration, that's ever done anything about it except helping along so that their warped ideas come to feed their power syndrome that they generally have exhibited. And we see what we have as a result of that, and we know that it's happened because we see the changes. We can get right back on the track and up out of the weeds and back up on the road very quickly. It's just a matter of turning the whole thing around and getting it back up on the road where you're supposed to be. It happens very quickly if you eliminate the source of the fuel that's driving you in the weeds off the road. So you eliminate that, and then you have no resistance to get back up on the road and go in the right direction, you see. So what happened was the advertisers realized that instead of offering advertising and not duplicating it in front of the consumer's eyes at the same time or a second or two later or whatever, 30-second spot or whatever it was, after the competitor's ad ran, we run another one right behind that. So we create competition, and when we do that, we sell more advertising, don't we? Did you get that? You see, advertising advertising is designed to get new customers. It's not designed to help certain companies that have more money to spend than others to develop a higher degree of market share, drilling down into the consumer market in a way that excludes others from the ability to compete. It's a reverse kind of a concept of monopolism that is allowable in our free enterprise, let the buyer beware system, that the government has looked the other way on and allowed to occur, because you see all these glowing words like free in business today, and all the big business advertising, and new, and all kinds of words that are used to describe products or services or whatever, that aren't, when you get right down to the words they use, it's a flat out lie. There's nothing that's free in business. You understand? There's nothing that's free unless a business wants to stay in business and make a profit. Whatever they spend to promote sales has to be included in the selling price. Otherwise, they're going to go broke. Did you get that? You see, there is no free concept. That's why whenever in my business plans, whenever I show that I have an exclusive offer, I never say anything about being free. I always talk about no charge to customers, because there isn't any charge to customers, but there's a cost there. But in my program, the way it's designed, it's so minimal that it doesn't affect the ultimate result of what is being delivered to the customer. And so when you do that, you empower small independent business owners at a zip code level to let their customers become market share swingers on your behalf. Did you get that? And that's what my business plan is all about. So capitalism zero profit is just a way for me to get into the concept of explaining why we need a profit in capitalism. That's what capitalism is all about. But capitalism and free enterprise is not designed, when you plant a seed and you get 10 harvested, it wasn't ever designed to take those 10 now and replant them and get 1,000 next time, and then replant those 1,000 and then get it 10,000 the next time. That's the way the big businesses in the erroneous and the really inexperienced and stupid way that the major companies today are managed. There's a few exceptions still today, but really, really few. Most of the big companies today, there is so much waste and abuse of reality and truthfulness and integrity that it isn't even. I mean, it almost makes you nauseous when you think about what's going on today, especially in our tech industries. And I understand the attorney general's looking into a lot of that stuff in the tech industry today, and he's going to find a lot. If he's really looking, he's going to find a lot of stuff that needs correcting. Okay, because those people have been on a rampage that has been fraught with almost criminal. I'd say it's not bordering on criminal. What they've done is criminal. I mean, we have our privacy, and supposedly they play lip service to it. They put beautiful sounding conceptual words together that's supposed to tell you about, we respect your privacy, but really what it means is we want to keep you confused enough so that you really don't understand what we're doing to you. For our benefit, not for yours. Okay, and can you imagine some of the biggest in the business doing business with our enemies? Now, is that patriot? See that flag over there? You may find it hanging in some of those big companies, tech companies. I'm talking about the really, really big ones in their offices and that, but they don't have a concept. They don't have a clue what that flag stands for. Not even a clue. If they did, they wouldn't be doing the things that they're doing to our people who, in the United States of America, the greatest country on the face of the earth, and if we're not careful, and if we don't start continuing some of the things that have been started in the last 2 or 3 years, it's going to swing back the other way. That's just the way of life and history. So capitalism zero profit is designed to enforce the concept of boomerang membership income, where all the money that my advertising program generates is put back into promoting the businesses that are approved. And I say approved because I offer exclusives and I don't sell franchises. I don't sell. Because the franchise concept, all the franchise concept does is price gouge customers. Okay. And why do I say that? Well, it's real simple. If you're a franchisee, you bought a job and you work for the franchisor, and you've got a contract and you need to abide by it. And if you're not careful, and if you get real serious about not abiding by it, they'll take it away from you, and they've got the legal right to do it. And you're left out in the cold. And I know this because I bought 10 franchises of one of the largest in the country way back in 1969. And I dealt with them for a couple of years, and I know what it's all about. They require their people that work for them, that they euphemistically call franchisees, our partners, they say, that they require them to pay 30 to 50% off the top of their daily sales to the franchise company. Well, what does that mean for the consumer? When you go into these fast food stores that you're so fond of running to buy, and we know that's true because they control 50% of the fast food business in the United States. Not one of them, but in fact, that's what people think. The one's so big that they got all the business. Well, that's not true. Some of the biggest only have a percentage of that 50, and a small percentage is that, because they don't even understand. These people that are supposed to be so smart, that have these franchises and have had them for years, they're supposed to be so smart. And look at how much we've grown. Well, they've grown on the backs of their consumers, because consumers are really easy to sell. You make a beautiful presentation, beautiful stores, and everything, and really good food. I mean, nothing wrong with their food, generally speaking. I know you've got the fringe out here that says, well, you can't eat so much of this and so much of that. You better eat more leaves, and stuff like that. But well, go to it. Have fun. Um, you've almost these companies. The only reason why they're after using beef, using stuff grown in a laboratory they call beef. The only reason they're doing that is so they cannot continue to keep raising their menu prices, because they're pricing themselves out of business, not because there's anything wrong with the beef, or the beef is that high price. It's because every other thing in their business model that they use, and the small independent business owners that compete against them, they're following their lead because they think they're doing everything right. Which is totally crazy, because we've seen in the news where they can't stay up with with their expenses and everything, that they're hard pressed to keep their customers. We've seen that in the news here the last several years, and so they've come up with this idea. Well, if we can, the cost of the food is a major item in their operation, but it's almost, and in many cases, it's not as much as what the companies, that the people that work for these franchises, the franchisees, are paying for just the right to be able to have the brand in that particular location to sell to the consumers in that area. They're paying more to the franchise company, or just about more, maybe, and generally about the same amount as they do for the food they sell. And so the franchise companies have realized, if we're going to continue to keep this guy that works for us, or this lady that bought this franchise from us, keep them, happy and paying us that 30 to 50% off their top of their sales every day, we've got to figure out a way to lower their food costs and then let them still eke out a living, owning this so great franchise. So what they've done is they figured out a way, and they collude with the scientists and so forth, who don't know straight up from straight down about what's going on in the world anyway. most of them, generally speaking, now. And so they come up with this idea that, well, they're gonna grow this meat in the laboratory, and then they're gonna turn around and call it meat, see, or some kind of really flowery sounding word that says, well, this tastes like beef, and so forth. And maybe it does, but it's one thing when you get something that may taste like beef, and then uh, you ruin our source of the people who have created the beef and kept us alive and provided the best source of protein that there is available on the planet for since Noah was a baby. We forget all about all those people, and we drive them out of business. There used to be 10, 12 million farmers in the United States, and today we got two, if you're lucky, 2 million. Did you get all that? Are you with me? So capitalism zero profit is just a concept, and it's a way to empower the businessmen that are alert and get in on my program and try to swing this around and use my program in the way that it was intended. And if you follow through my websites, 7cities.com, 7 is spelled out, cities is plural.com, 7 SEVENCITIES.com. If you follow that website through and all the concepts and things that I present on those websites and the videos that are there, if you come to an understanding that what we've got is businessmen that have awakened to the reality that they can compete, not only compete, but overshadow the franchises in their own area where they operate their businesses, because they have an advantage the franchise can't duplicate. They can't follow you competitively because you don't have that extra 30 to 50% that you have to add on to the prices. Now, this is not just food, but food is, there's so many food businesses because people have varied tastes and so forth. And there's a market for most of those categories, unless you get way out in the fringes. And there's enough people that, they're not going to eat the same thing every day anyway. I mean, people, unless they were forced to do that, probably wouldn't do that, you see. So, what you've got is the ability to compete, even though you're in a multi-faceted categorical, subcategorical business operation modality. And with my program, the exclusive markets that I allow my approved members to operate my system, my baseball coupons, 1, 2, 3 bases, and then home base, and then it repeats. So you get maximum discounts every time you use a coupon. You run the bases, you get a higher discount. You come around to home base, you get a maximum discount, and then it starts over. So it's a concept that I created called progressive savings coupons, which is different than the advertising industry sells to businesses and big businesses use, because they're all limited in time and they're only used to affect market share for that period of time. Did you get that? Are you with me? So if you think these things through, it starts to click and say, yeah, I never thought of that. And you start to realize why things are the way they are and what the solution to it is. And that is the return to you see, there's a right way to do things, and it's always the right way. There's a right way to do things, and if you do them the wrong way, you get a wrong result. Did you get that? And there's a wrong way to do things, obviously, and you do those in a wrong way, and you always get a wrong result. And you can do a wrong thing in a right way and still get a wrong result. Did you get that one? There's only one way to do something, and that's the right way. You can break your head and you can fight against the reality of life all you want to, but there's a right way to do things, and only that way works. And the sooner you get on to that, the better, the more happy in life you're going to be, and the less pressure you're going to find yourself trying to alleviate yourself of by taking so many pills. So that's my capitalism zero profit explanation. Now you go on with the click and you go on to Boomerang membership income. The CPA audits online certification or validation of the fact that the written agreement says all the money comes back to the people that are successful in getting approved and operate in it with my program. And so that there is a way to enforce the agreement that can't be that can't be uh, 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 done in a way that makes the business offer a lie. Because the CPA simply audits all the expenses of all the member income, and they run an audit online and show expenses and show membership income of all the members, and it zeroes out every time they publish an audit. See, that validates. And in order to keep the thing in a management system that works within using the money that comes in the right way, I have a budget for the total amount. It's 15% for member acquisition. You've got to continually expand the membership program in my business plan in order to continue to acquire new businesses throughout cities, so that the concept grows and the consumer benefits as a result of it, because they're able to buy things at 30 to 50%, generally speaking, at less of their disposable income, which is good for them. And it's good for the economy of the United States of America, because it frees up money now that's being in a absolute corrupt way of getting into your as a consumer, getting into your pocketbook without you realizing it, taking money away from you because of your need to go out and buy goods and services. And it's all everything is stacked against you the way things have developed over the last 70 years. And how do I know this is true? Because, all you have to do is look at the way the big franchise companies have woke up to the fact in the last 20 years or so, roughly, generally speaking, where they realized they had developed about as far as they were going to go in the United States. So what did they do? They went offshore and started to sell their franchise. They went offshore into other nations around the world. They said, look how successful our franchise brand is in the United States. Wouldn't you like to cut yourself in for a big share of that success? And started selling franchise over in the other nations because it didn't have any more room in the United States. So you tell me whether or not that's good or not. I have my own ideas about it. But one thing I know, they built that business, that global business. Everybody talks that word global now. I'm not concerned too much about global. I'm concerned about the United States of America. That's the one I'm concerned about. And I know another guy that's concerned about that primarily also. I don't know him, but I hear a lot about him, and I watch him a lot, and I've studied him for a long time. Okay, so and if you don't believe that, just go look at the registrations of the .coms that I made before he ever came on the scene as a U.S. political leader. Uh, so that tells you a little bit if you're interested. But anyway. They didn't even now that they've done it, now that they've built that business, they didn't even say thank you. They built that business globally on the backs of their USA consumers that built their business in the first place, and they didn't even say thank you to them. Do you realize that? They didn't even say thank you. Everything they do is against the consumers, the very people that purchase their goods and services, because they price gouge them up to 30 to 50%. And now with delivery, that's where the 50% up to 50% starts to come into the picture. And supposedly it's all, and many consumers, because as I say, they're not stupid, they're always going to go for the price, but they may be uninformed about what's happening to them by going for that price that they do go for. So I'm not disparaging. I'm only simply I'm drawing a comparison between price and what you have to give up to get that price that you think is good, when and in fact it's not, because you've given up so much. Did you follow that? So so the thing is, you get to the next page in the website from this video. If you see the click below this video, you'll see that I talk about the ethics in advertising, which there aren't any in the advertising business today. It's kind of like the news business today. There isn't any ethics left. In rare exceptions, okay, I'll grant you, there's still a few who, what, where, when, and why people that are out there. Not why, who, what, where, and when. That's the news, okay? But now you've got all this who, what, where, when, and what we think is why. And that is what our fabulous president, Mr. Donald J. Trump, always talks about, and facts bear out. So all of this is very, very, very new to almost everybody. So I understand if you didn't catch it all the first time around. That's the nice thing about the video. You can listen to it again, or if you're really interested, get in touch with me. I can explain it all to you. I call myself the answer man, and I don't apologize.